Then who do you
mentioned it once.
think has had the biggest influence on the NBA today?
If we're talking about today, then Stephen Curry has to be that person. If we're talking historically, it starts and ends with Michael Jordan. I think we're quick to just forget about what he's done for the game. It was interesting to hear LeBron on that podcast with JJ talk about most influential and not name MJ, considering, this guy still outsells anybody today in sneaker sales for a reason. He's the most iconic player to ever play the game. If you don't know this, go watch the Dream Team documentary and you can kind of get an idea of who this guy is and what he did for the game of basketball. So much so that a guy who's the lower and version under him would be like a Kobe Bryant, right? He's like his little brother. That's a guy who influenced the game. When I look at Devin Booker, he has Be Legendary tattooed on him. I see Jason Tatum have a Kobe Bryant Mamba tattoo on him. We talk about Mamba mentality almost every week. These are guys who changed the game. A lot of two guards emulate their game. Every good two guard we get in the NBA, we compare them to who? Kobe Bryant. He reminds me of Michael Jordan, of this, and that. That's who we compare Ant to, right? These are the guys who also pioneered the game and changed the game and had a huge influence. Now, we talk Stephen Curry. That's an impact on game in terms of playing style, three-pointers being shot. He's the greatest shooter of all time. He and Iverson are guys who are 6 foot, 6'2", if we're being generous. They're very obtainable to the eye. People look at those guys and say, man, I think I could do that. I think I could be that. If they could do it, I can do it. When you look at LeBron James and you look at Michael, these guys are 6'6", 6'7", freak of nature athletes, although Iverson was a freak athlete within himself, so I'm doing him a disservice there. But still, these guys, from a height standpoint, I think people saw that they could, do these things. I mean, Stephen A., I think you'd probably have to agree with me. I know you're a Michael guy, but him and Kobe, for me, are guys who are left out, specifically Kobe. People always leave him out the mix. We always jump to AI because of his culture and him wearing the clothes he wears, and now we see Shea and Westbrook and all these guys do that. By the way, Adam Silver's name should be thrown in there because if David Stern, God bless his soul, was still around, we'd probably be still wearing suits to the game. I'm not even kidding. So there's a lot that goes to why we're at where we're at now. A lot of names in that hat. But playing style, culture are two different things. Iverson's more of a culture icon. Stephen Curry changed the way teams play. It's a copycat league. First, there was no room for bigs. Now suddenly we're seeing bigs. I watched the game the other night. I think it was the Cavs versus the Bulls. There was 4 centers on the court. So, now that the Nuggets are winning, now we're seeing teams put an emphasis on getting centers again. It's always going to be a copycat league, up and down. We were in an era where people were shooting too many threes. We got too many guys thinking they Stephen Curry and they're not. There's only one of those. He's definitely had an impact on the game. He's definitely up there on that list. I like LeBron throwing Steph on that list, but leaving Jordan out and Kobe out for me doesn't make a lot of sense. Those two guys have to be in the mix.
Go ahead, Monica.
I like the way you broke that down, Austin, because I actually hadn't thought about it like that. And to me, I didn't necessarily go straight player, but I went three-point shooting, which is obviously correlated to Steph Curry in the way that he's impacted the game. The cultural impact versus the impact of the game conversation is very, very layered. I hadn't really gone there. But anyway, I'm just going to continue to roll with Steph on this one because of the three-point shooting. I think the way that he has forced teams to look for defenders that can guard multiple positions. To me, he is kind of encapsulating, I don't want to say position-less because I don't 100% believe that, but the idea that players need to have a variety of skill sets so that they can be interchangeable pieces, so to speak. Because as much as Stephen Curry technically is a point guard, many of us see him as a scorer before you see him as the traditional pass-first point guard. And so I think, to me, Steph's influence, whether you talk about specifically shooting or the interchangeability and the nature of the game being able to be played in the two-man game, guys being able to score at different positions at all 3 levels, I got to give a lot of credit in this conversation to Steph.
Well, listen, I agree with you, Eminem, and the breakdown that Austin gave was right on point, no doubt about that. And by the way, anybody that knows basketball is a Jordan guy, personally. Let's get that out the way right now. Anybody that knows basketball is a Jordan guy, okay? Just go back and watch the tape, all right? But in the end, what it comes down to is this. To answer the question directly, biggest influence on NBA today is Steph Curry.
Yeah. Yes.
There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
And you're right about Allen Iverson and the culture part. But we're talking about today. And when we see, it's one thing when you can point to little kids in the streets and what they're trying to do in terms of shooting the three and all of this other stuff. No, you don't even have to go there. All you have to do is go to the NBA. Look at you've never seen people jack up threes now. Jack up threes before the way they're jacking up threes now. All right. Now, one could easily argue, and Austin, you'll appreciate this, along with you, Eminem. I could give credit to Mike D'Antoni.
That's
all
what I
right,
was
and
thinking.
Steve
I'm with
Nash.
you. Yes.
Because obviously, you know what? 7 seconds or less, push the ball up the floor, jack up some shots, get it to the hole, or shoot the three. Don't shoot the mid-range. I don't care about the mid-range. You understand what I'm saying? I've seen this man. Listen, I know of players who literally committed a turnover and they challenged a layup on the opposite end and fouled the dude, and Mike D'Antoni summoned them over and was like this, hey, we don't do that here. We don't do that. Let them score. It quickens the pace. This is what he said. Okay, so this is what we're talking about, right? So you got to give them credit where credit is due. But nevertheless, we ain't never seen people as reliant on long-range bombs the way that they are now because of Steph Curry. And that's on every level. And so when you look at it from that perspective, there's no question that the biggest influence on today's NBA game is definitely Steph Curry.